It is late at night for me here. I have just gotten home from Deadpool and Wolverine, and did we get a classic Marvel movie and a comeback of, the brand? Or did we get a little bit of a shameless cameo fan service fest? Let's talk about it. Yes, I'm kind of starting it off with both those things because you're going to get a lot of people who are going to be out there saying that this is Marvel back, the best game movies, since Endgame. This is, what we wanted the MCU to be for a while. And then you'll have some people who will be kind of down on Deadpool and Wolverine because it's very much in a lot of areas fan service cameo fest. And without spoiling who cameos are, without spoiling the fan service in the movie, I fall somewhere directly in the middle. To me, Deadpool and Wolverine is carried unanimously by Jackman and Reynolds, and their kind of chemistry together. A lot of this movie it needs to be carried by those two and their comedic beats and their chemistry together, how they play off each other as their versions of Logan and Deadpool, and just the overall riff they have going throughout the movie and trying to progress a character journey, at least for Logan himself. The reason why I'm also somewhere in the middle, though, is because this movie, to me, has one of the weakest stories of any comic book movie I've seen of late. It very much is centered around giving you oohs and ahs of certain cameos. I think the only character that is able to have a very solid kind of story, but even then there's a lot more telling than showing, came with Logan. And kind of what happened with this Wolverine and why is he the way he is. And this is the case for me of where if maybe a little bit less time was spent in cameos and maybe some basic comedic timing and we got some actual showing moments, I would have loved to see what happened with this Wolverine kind of a little bit early on to understand his placements. I guess we get kind of it later, but nothing really in depth of what actually happened, more of just telling us why this Wolverine feels the way he does. And Jackman carries those moments extremely well, proving once again why he is a world-class actor. And throughout this whole entire movie, the journey of this version of a Logan, this universe's Logan and Wolverine, I think is the main hinge point in the movie, even if the movie doesn't quite realize that throughout. Reynolds as Deadpool delivers a lot of great jokes, a lot of great fourth wall breaking. There's a lot of great action throughout this movie, but there isn't, I feel, a good heart character moments and a good heart story for, Wade Wilson and Deadpool himself. I think that's one thing that's made the first two Deadpool movies so good, is how personal the story feels for the character of Wade and what he's going through and what his mission is. Whether, it's dealing with Vanessa in the second movie, and what happened, or in the first movie, again, trying to prove himself to Vanessa and learning his, these powers and stuff that he's dealt with and making the best of a bad situation. This movie feels very much like we're trying to give the fan service of Jackman's Wolverine and Reynolds' Deadpool the ability to be on screen together and have those moments. And I will say they do touch upon Logan, and I think maybe they handle that decently well, and describing that this is definitely not going to be a Wolverine Logan from Deadpool's current universe that we know of. But, again, I think, their screens together and everything works very well. The cameos, again, if you're super fans of Marvel, I think you'll enjoy these cameos throughout. There's some parts that don't make too much sense for me, but overall, cameos were enjoyable if you're a more hardcore Marvel fan and you know who these characters are. Downsides. The villains of Cassandra Nova and even Paradox were very bland, boring, and I think underutilized. They felt very generically bland Marvel villains, and even though their acting, I think, was done decently well by both their actors, I did not love their characters, and once again, it felt very much a downgrade from what we've had seen in the previous Deadpool movies, in my opinion. Then like I said, we have this very weak story. And that is where most of my critiques will come into. I think a lot of people are going to go into this movie, they're going to see the cameos, they're going to see great action, a great soundtrack, and be like, oh my god, Marvel is big! But really, this is, I think, one of the more average Marvel movies out there. I think when you look at the best Marvel movies like Endgame, like Guardians of the Galaxy, like Captain America Winter Soldier, like Iron Man, you can go on, Black Panther. There was emotional journey and emotional growth throughout. Even in things like Infinity War, there was character journeys and character moments throughout. This movie lacked it very much so. And I think for, looking more deep into this movie, it's pretty basic, it's pretty bland, and there isn't much there outside of that fan servicey. So I really challenge anybody out there who are saying this is the best Marvel movie since Endgame to compare it to even last year's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which not only delivered, I felt, some fan servicey moments, but a heartfelt story for Rocket. I think a really big emotional growth for Quill. Even moments for Nebula and Mantis throughout. All while, I think, giving a better villain performance than either of the things we got in this movie. It's without a question this movie is like 2 or 3 tiers below Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in quality. But again, people love their fan service, people love their cameo, so they'll say this is the best thing ever, when really it's just an average Marvel film. And that's why, for me, without going into too many other spoilers, Deadpool and Wolverine gets a basic average gold. I think if you love Marvel, if you love comic books, this is probably a diamond or a high platinum for you. But if you're an average movie-go watcher, you're going to probably enjoy the comedy elements, maybe some of the action scenes, but the story and the villains and the antagonists throughout are bland, boring, and not really there. And, that's just a shame. For me, because this movie's being hyped up to be something a lot better than it is. And for me, Deadpool and Wolverine is just an average comic book movie, kind of overperformed by some great chemistry for Reynolds and Jackman. But outside of those two, it was bland and really fan servicey. And outside of Jackman's performance with this Logan's character, which I thought was minimal at best with his character journey, this movie would have been a very, I think, poor movie overall, in my opinion. I'm sure people will tell me I'm wrong in the comments down below, and everybody is right for their own opinion, and that's awesome. But for me, this is an average Marvel movie, and is nowhere near as good as what people are going to make it out to be. But that's me here at Josh Does Movies. Tell me your thoughts down below, and yeah, I'll see you for the next movie review or TV show view here on the channel. I appreciate you all, and have a good night.